That all people can have sickle cell. It doesn't care if you're black or white.
My name's Lisa Rose, and I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina.
My name's Sophia Elizabeth Rose, and I'm from North Carolina.
Okay. So what is your guys' relationship with sickle cell?
Sophia has sickle cell.
You do?
Yes.
What type of sickle cell do you have? Do you know?
No, but my mom knows.
Sickle beta 0.
I have sickle cell. I have sickle beta 0.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And do you know how old were you when you were diagnosed?
0 months.
Okay.
Yes, on the newborn screen.
Okay. So, Lisa, if you can talk a little bit about yourself and your family, your background, that people know, like, where you're from and how come, for those who don't know, that sickle cell also affect Caucasians, how does that apply? So tell us a little bit about you.
Okay. So my background is I'm Italian and Greek, and my husband is Irish, and they're not really sure why he has the trait. Mine's kind of obvious because I'm from the Mediterranean area, which there's lots of people that actually have sickle cell trait there. We have 8 children. Sophia's the only one with the disease, and we have 4 other kids that have the trait. We didn't even know it existed before she was born.
So can you explain, in terms of trait, what trait do you have and what trait your husband has?
Okay. I have the sickle cell trait. My husband has the beta 0 thalassemia trait. And they don't actually call it a trait. They call it thalassemia minor, which they should do that for sickle cell. They should call it sickle cell minor. We could have sickle cell major. That would be helpful. And then, 4 of the kids have the sickle cell trait. 1 has the thalassemia trait. And then Sophia has both, which makes a type of sickle cell disease.
Okay. So how did you learn about Sophia diagnosis? How did that come about?
So they did the heel stick that they do on all the babies in America, and then they called us about...
That's newborn screening?
Yes. They called us about, 3 weeks later, and the pediatrician said that we needed to come in. And so we came in, and they said, we think we did the test wrong, so we're going to do it again. And they didn't really tell us anything, so we thought, oh, okay. So they did the test again. That actually has happened to 2 of my other children where the test clotted or something happened. So they did it again, and they wound up doing it 5 times. And then finally, after the 5th time, they realized that it was her blood, that she did have sickle cell, and then we had to move. They gave us 2 weeks' notice to move 400 miles. We lived in the mountains in Colorado at about 12,000 feet, and you can't go above 8,000 feet if you have sickle cell. So we had to move immediately before she turned 2 months old, and that was crazy because we had to try to sell our house and all kinds of things.
Can you explain why?
Because the oxygen levels, the higher up you go, the thinner the air is, and the less oxygen you have available, which then increases the likelihood of sickling. And so the stroke rate increases substantially above 8,000 feet. It's actually above 5,000 feet if you're from sea level, but because she was born at 5,000 feet, she can't go above 8,000 feet. So it's a pretty strict rule. People ask a lot about flying and how can you fly, but cabins are pressurized to 8,000 feet, so it's usually not a huge problem if you fly with oxygen.
So she has sickle beta thalassemia, which I have the same. When growing up, did you have a lot of crises?
Yeah, I still have little crises.
Okay. And how does that, how would you describe a sickle cell crisis or a pain episode? How can you describe it? Can you describe it to me?
No, I describe it like it feels like fire.
Feels like what?
Fire.
Fire? Explain it to me, like, fire where?
Well, it's mostly in my kidneys or legs.
You feel fire going to your legs?
Yeah, all on my kidneys.
Or your kidneys, like in your tummy area?
No. Oh, can you see that?
Uh-huh, yep.
No, on my back.
Towards the back, lower back?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where it's mostly is. But one time I had sickle cell in my head. It was like, what is it called?
Your scalp?
My scalp. And it was not too long ago, actually.
It wasn't, like 2 months.
It was a sickle cell pain, but my mom thought it was, we thought it was a headache, but it wasn't a headache. It wasn't a regular headache, because I had it like every day. So then they said, oh, it's sickle cell in your head. And so they cured it, though.
And what what happened? Did you go to the hospital?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened when you go to the hospital?
Well, they sticked me, and then I was resting in a bed, of course, and Thaddeus was there,
It was.
and they gave me medicine.
Did they give you pain medicine?
Yeah.
She had a weird, they called it a sickle cell migraine. It was a weird type of migraine that they only see in sickle cell patients. And they had to give her some abnormal medicine that they never use for migraines. It can be very dangerous because normal migraine medicine constricts your blood vessels, which obviously during a crisis, you definitely don't want to constrict your blood vessels. So they gave her some other alternative medicine and it opened everything up. And then they gave her pain medicine on top of that. But it took them, like 2 weeks to figure out that it wasn't just a regular pain crisis. So the opioids were making it worse. And that was a weird hospitalization. We weren't at a hospital that specialized in sickle cell. So they were just like, oh, pain, here's your Dilaudid, here's your morphine. And this was more specialized. But she always describes it as fire in her blood. Like her body's, like it's just burning.
Okay.
Or sometimes she said it's like pressure where you can't breathe. But your oxygen's okay, but it feels like you can't catch your breath.
So would you say like it's a mixture of different type of sensation? Like you feel like somebody's punching you, you feel like, like an electric shock, you feel like fire, you feel like it's hot and cold and it's pulsating. No?
Like different types of pain. Like sometimes it's burning, sometimes, and then it moves.
Yeah, it moves around. Like you could have it on one side and then it moves to the other side, or it moves to your legs.
Yeah, that's what happens to me. It moves.
Speak louder.
You can talk louder, honey. Look at the
Look at me.
It moves, though. It does move how you said it.
So you feel that way.
Yeah.
What do the doctors think when you tell them it moves?
You're fine.
Are they?
What is it?
And she said, it's fine. They think it's a little weird when you tell them it moves. They're like, how can your pain move? And then Sophia, what do you tell them?
Because I have sickle cell.
Because it's in your blood and your blood moves all the time. It never stops moving. Right? It's not like your leg stays there, but the blood is always moving.
What are some of the challenges that you guys face?
What are some of the challenges that you face because you have sickle cell? It's things that are hard.
Not believing that I have sickle cell. Not believing I have pain, I guess.
What about like day to day? What's hard about just every day?
Well, I always have pain.
You always have pain every day?
Yeah.
And how, for you, like, do you have a difficulty getting veins? Like, do you get poked a lot?
One time when I was in the hospital, in 24 hours, they give me 27 pokes, and it didn't work.
So what do we have now?
So I have a port now on my right side because I'm left-handed.
We love our port. And it's a double port.
To the purple?
Yeah.
Okay. Vortex?
It is. It's an adult size. She was lucky enough to have enough space. It was kind of unusual. There's only like 2 kids in all of North Carolina that have the port that she has because it's so big. But it's great.
Yeah, but the first port I had blew up because I have tubes in me. I and one of the tubes blew up because the blood what was coming in me was going too fast and was really thicker than the tube. So the tube blew up. For 6 months total, they didn't know that. So,
Yeah, so all her transfusions weren't working for 6 months, and they didn't know. And so it
And
was
that's
just
why
going
they
out and
feel-
coming, yeah. And
and
all of a
that's
sudden
why
she'd
they-
be like, I don't feel good, huh?
yeah.
So they thought the blood wasn't working, but really it was your port.
Talking about, do you get monthly transfusion? You get transfusion every month?
No, every 6 weeks now.
6 months? The phlebotomy?
Well, in our hospital, they only do the phlebotomy if your body can't handle the machine, which they said is like under 2. They pull it out, push it in, pull it out, push it in. No, it's a machine, the apheresis machine. But some kids just get blood on top of their regular. They don't get anything taken out. It's called a simple transfusion. Meaning you're just simply getting blood instead of an exchange, right? Which means we're giving you blood and you're
is
taking out.
exchange longer than a regular transfusion?
Yeah,
It varies.
it depends. Because they're doing it at the same time, so you're getting the blood at the same speed. But sometimes there's a complication, like when your blood pressure drops, and they have to stop the machine, or when your calcium drops and they have to stop the machine. So that can make it take longer.
Or when your head feels funny.
That's from your blood pressure. That's what makes your head feel funny.
Yeah, I get that.
Or when your heart feels funny, that's your calcium.
No, my heart.
Have you been going to, have you been through a lot of, different complications due to sickle cells or any other illness?
Mm-hmm.
What does that
Like you've had blood infections. Those are scary.
mean? Yeah, I've had pokes in my armpits for a wheel.
Those are called PICC lines.
I had pick lines and
That's to treat an infection in your blood.
what else did I have?
That's before the port. And then you had
Oh, I had 2 Q chests, right?
5.
5 Q chests I've had.
You had
You can
5
only-
acute chest syndrome?
Yeah.
Wow.
She gets that a lot.
Okay.
Those are scary too.
And you can only cure them in 3 hours. Right, Mommy?
Well, so the way I explain acute chest is lots of people know what tuberculosis is. It gives you lung problems. Really, it takes away all of your lung tissue and makes it in scars. But acute chest is like that, only instead of it taking months, it takes hours. So if you don't catch it right away, then it can be fatal. That's why whenever you start to have a little trouble breathing or you have a cough, they want to check your lungs right away. And then, usually the only thing they can do is take out your blood and give you new blood. There's not like a cool medicine that makes it better. That would be nice, but there's not.
Maybe Chloe can invent that.
That would be cool. Because of our race, nobody in our world has the trait or even knows what the trait is. So we had to start from 0. And that's kind of why we started. That's a big reason why we started our business, our organization. But because there was nothing. You went online and it said you were either going to die within the first year or it wasn't anything big, ignore it. And it was like, these are, 2 very different ends of the spectrum. There's got to be some kind of common ground. But the first 3 years, we just kept Sophia in a bubble. We didn't let her go to any, even like at church, we would sit in the special room because we basically treated her like she had no immune system. And it wasn't until she was 3 that our doctor, our amazing hematologist, Dr. Ness in Colorado, came and yelled at me and said, this is not how a child should live. Yes, she needs to be protected, but she needs to live too. You've got to take some risks. And so we did. I was mad at first, but I got over it because she was right. We needed to have fun too. And so we did. And now finding the balance, of what you can do, what you shouldn't do, and when you're going to take a risk, like swimming here. Sophia and I made a decision a while back that she wouldn't swim when she was traveling, because every time we travel, she gets a crisis. She had one 2 days ago while we were here. A lot of the patients did. Probably all of them, I would imagine. Traveling is hard on your body, even if you're not flying. So that's a hard thing to say, like, we're not going to swim while we're at a hotel. And maybe some of the other kids did, and what happened? Right? Last year at the symposium, a bunch of the sickle cell kids swam, and they all wound up in the hospital. And Sophia was like, I'm really glad I didn't swim. I wanted to, I felt a lot of peer pressure, but I'm not in the hospital. How do you think that people view sickle cell in the world? When you tell new people you meet, what's their response?
Sometimes bad, sometimes good.
Okay, like when you meet a new friend and you say, I have sickle cell, what do they say?
What's sickle cell?
Exactly.
Yeah, how do you answer?
I say, well, it's in your blood, but I think it's like she can have it if I touch her. But I'm like, no, it's a disease where you guys can't get it. I just have it. And then I have these two. I have a circle, and then I have a crescent. And if that crescent gets blocked, the stream gets bigger and it keeps up, and it turns into a sickle, and it turns into a sickle cell pain. And that's what I tell them.
That's a good explanation.
What would you like to change in the way people view sickle cell?
That all people can have sickle cell. It doesn't care if you're black or white.
So you would like the information to change in the way people talk about sickle cell?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the first thing they say always is,
You're white.
it's a predominantly African American disease. 1 in 12 African, like always, it's the first, even if they're trying to talk about diversity, it's the first line out of their mouths when they present it on all the websites and all the pamphlets. And I think it's because they want to raise awareness for African people to get tested, which is great, but really everybody should be tested because in America, they didn't start doing national sickle cell screening on the newborn screen until like 2007. My daughter was born in 2000, she's 10, so she's clearly not making babies, but all the people in our generation weren't, and they certainly weren't tested if they were white. They might have tested you if you had a family member that had trait or something, or had the disease, but it was very heavily racially profiled. And we've even gone to some of the walks where they do the testing, and I'll intentionally have, not Sophia, but have my daughters that have the trait go and ask to get tested, and they're even blonder than Sophia, and people will be like, oh no, honey, this is sickle cell trait testing, and we're like, yeah, you want to test us? Like, and then their faces, even as testers, are like, oh my gosh, she has the trait. We don't know, like our minds are blown, and we're the people doing the testing, we're the nurses, and it's like, that's what we need to change. This shouldn't be that your mind's blown, that it has to be one race and only one race, and if we're not part of that race, we should just ignore it. Because we all know about cystic fibrosis, yet that is definitely more prominent in one race over another. But they have a worldwide reach for everybody to know about it. So that's our goal for sickle cell.
So
Yeah?
what's missing for us to be able to reach that?
We need to have more conversations, and they need to believe us that it doesn't care if you're black or white.
Target audiences, like literally needs to be the people who think they can't have it. You know, right now, target audiences are intentionally racially quiet. The audiences that people are educating are intentionally targeted. For what they say to like stop the sickle cycle. I understand that, but we need to have a national campaign that targets people that don't think they can be a part of it. Only target one population. Cystic fibrosis doesn't do that. They don't say, okay, 1 in 10 white people have it, and then you're like, oh, well, I'm not white, so I'm not gonna listen. They just talk about the illness and educate people. Same with like diabetes and heart disease, and even though those affect one population more than the other, they still don't target people just based on race. If we don't want it to be about race, then we have to stop targeting based on race for education. Make it more of just a conversation.
Thank you very much for your time, guys. Really appreciate it.
Say bye. Bye.